I interrupt my normal programming to bring you this special video about a developing news event in Kenya. And I'm afraid the news I have for you today is rather alarming. But of course my intention is not to scare anybody. My intention is to inform. Because the more informed a person is, in my opinion, the safer they are. Better to know than to be in the dark. Now a few hours ago, there was breaking news of an incident in Uthiru, where it was initially reported that a building was collapsing. Now it is very unfortunate that a person in some newsroom decided to use the word collapsing rather than the correct word, which is sinking. You see, in Kenya, we have had many cases of substandard structures and buildings collapsing. And therefore anybody hearing these initial reports would have immediately jumped to the conclusion there must have been something wrong with the construction of that building. And indeed I believe matters have been made worse because the DCI has gotten involved and as we speak are taking statements on the ground. Now towards the end of my show today, you will discover why that small mistake of replacing the word sinking with collapsing was a fatal mistake. You'll discover why I'm saying that. Now, just glancing at the photographs of this Epsom View apartments building in Uthiru, it is clear that this building did not collapse. Indeed, has not collapsed. What has happened is that it has sunk. Indeed, what experts are saying is that there's evidence that this building had a strong structure because another building taken through that sinking process may have collapsed or had other extensive damage in the upper floors. Indeed, in my opinion, it is much simpler and a lot less scary to be told that a building collapsed because it was not up to standards. Somebody took shortcuts here and there. That one is a lot easier to deal with. And in a minute, you will know why I've made that strange statement. Because initial thorough investigations by this channel suggests that those investigating this building in Uthiru may have to look elsewhere, may have to go through a very scary road to unearth the truth. You see, currently we have very heavy unprecedented rainfall in the country. There are floods in many parts of the country. And let me quote verbatim what an expert has revealed to me moments ago. That is indeed very relevant to all of us, extremely relevant. And this is an expert in what? In matters geology. In other words, those people who study the earth beneath our feet. And this is what they say. Lots of rainfall and increased water flow can erode weak points in the earth's crust, causing fault lines to widen and form on the surface rifts or fissures. Bila kizungu mingi, what they're saying is that too much rainfall, too much water which seeps underground can mess around with the structure deep in the crust of the earth. And what this expert added is that in fact floods can trigger off earthquakes. Now, before we go back to Uthiru, I want to draw your attention to a news report about a year ago, which is very relevant to what we're discussing here today. You will remember at the time, after the shock announcement of results of the 2022 presidential elections, many Kenyans were in mourning. And this is also around the time when the air was thick with maandamano, and therefore it was very easy for many of us to have missed this news report that unfolded in Kiambu at a place called Thindigwa, where some apartments called Janid apartments suffered a very similar problem to what we saw in Uthiru a few hours ago. In the then 10-year-old building, huge cracks started emerging, and pillars of this apartment started sinking with no reason, so that very quickly the whole apartment block was leaning on one side. All the people living in those apartments were quickly evacuated. There were about 40 units involved. Now, let us go to Nakuru County and look at a mind-blowing incident that occurred over this past weekend in a place called Mukuru wa Nyatoro in Kiambogo, Nakuru County. Last week, residents of this village noticed that there were cracks on their farms due to heavy rainfall, but these cracks widened, and they realized that there was something very wrong when on Friday they started hearing noises from below the ground. And then, believe it or not, smoke started rising up out of these ditches. By this past weekend, what started as small cracks had developed into huge deep ditches or fissures, and in some places these fissures are as deep as 13 meters deep. What? And occasionally they can still hear the noise and the smoke coming out. Now, government officials have asked the residents of this village to move, but most of them have stayed put, saying they have nowhere else to go. Now, back to Uthiru and the Epsom View apartments. Residents report that about 2 days ago, the building started developing cracks, and they immediately notified the owner of the building, who started to do some repairs, and indeed was on the ground this fateful Tuesday day, and is the one who warned residents to move out of the building, because as they were working on the repairs, they noticed the building started sinking. And again, interesting to note, residents report that these cracks developed immediately after some very heavy rainfall in the area. Now, kindly note that the earlier example I gave of the building about a year ago, the apartments about a year ago, in Thindigwa, Kiambu, and the current case in Uthiru are all within the same area, more or less. Because a part of Uthiru is within Nairobi County, and another part of Uthiru is within Kiambu County, the very same county we're talking about. Kiambu County is right at the edge of the Rift Valley, the Great Rift Valley, which runs from Mozambique to the Middle East and crosses Kenya from the Tanzanian border and exits around the Lake Turkana area. And the simplest way to describe the Great Rift Valley is that it is a crack in the Earth's crust that is 6,000 miles long. Nakuru County, where I gave the other example of what happened this past weekend, with huge fissures on the ground, is within the Rift Valley. Please join the dots, because what we seem to have here is yet another very serious threat from Mother Nature, apart from the ongoing floods. And of course, there is also the danger of earthquakes, as experts are telling us. We of course continue to wait for an official report on this latest development in Uthiru. We thank Almighty God that there were no casualties. I believe only one person, a lady, had some injuries and had to be taken to hospital. The rest of the tenants were finally accounted for and are okay. We really thank God for that. But that is my investigative report, even as we wait for the official one. Almighty God, please remember mercy for the nation of Kenya, even as we are in the season of judgment. Now, very quickly before I go, I still have 3 slots remaining for the highly sensitive and very revealing special report on the General Ogolla accident. Accident in quotes, because most Kenyans do not believe it was an accident. Now you can see details on your screens right now. So you have this unique chance. Please make a move quickly to avoid disappointment using the details you see on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 1,999 or $15, you can have this highly sensitive explosive special report in your inbox in seconds, and I highly recommend it so that you understand the very scary things which are going on in our country at the moment. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.